This season, rather than madness, opening days, or taking a break, the world is frozen, silenced by quarantines, isolated by distance, and edging on panic. But while work for you may have changed, out here, we're still going strong. Our season is underway. The crops will get planted, the livestock will be fed, and your food will continue to be grown. Just like it's been for generations. There's plenty to worry about. But out here, social distancing is our specialty. American agriculture, farms on, today and tomorrow, for our family and yours.
Hello, welcome to Farm Journal Live. I'm editor Clinton Griffiths here at the Farm Journal Newsroom in northern Indiana as we continue to bring you the latest in the coronavirus outbreak and its impact for agriculture. Let's get straight to the headlines today. We've been talking quite a bit about the livestock industry. That industry continuing to deal with processing plant and restaurant closures. Both cattle and hog producers now releasing new estimates on potential losses. The NCBA says the cattle industry could see losses of $13.6 billion due to COVID-19. The biggest impacts expected to come at cow-calf producers' expense. Those losses forecast at $3.7 billion, or roughly $112 per head for each mature breeding animal. Meanwhile, the National Pork Producers Council saying plummeting hog values are creating a financial disaster for farmers there nationwide. NPPC saying they now face a collective $5 billion loss from the remainder of 2020. An ag economist saying the hog farmers, they could add up to losses of nearly $37 per head. Corn futures sinking right now on word that ethanol production now at its lowest point in modern history for the U.S., down a whopping 43% from 3 weeks ago. The drop due to the coronavirus driving down that demand, production falling to just 570,000 barrels per day, down about 15% in just the last week. Stocks now at record highs, sitting at 27.5 million barrels for corn on Wednesday. This is a midday. May futures now at their lowest point since September of 2016. Meanwhile, the problem, demand for oil is dropping across the world. Oil demand expected to fall by a record 9.3 million barrels a day this year. That's according to the International Energy Agency. April will be the hardest hit. Fuel use contracting by almost a third to the lowest level since 1995. Benchmark U.S. crude touched its lowest price since 2002 before recovering slightly on Wednesday, but still below that $19 a barrel mark. Let's bring in Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. And Matt, this kind of weighing on your mind as you're sitting in an Illinois field thinking about planting today.
You know, the interesting thing whenever it comes to planting, the last three mornings, I guess, you get up in the morning and you wonder why anybody would want to plant corn, and then middle of the afternoon it's 50 degrees and you're wondering why you're not planting corn. So right. It's been a very interesting spring. I mean, I'll take this spring over last spring any day of the week. I mean, that was a nightmare, but these cold temperatures certainly have thrown a monkey wrench in things. And so obviously the markets are weighing very heavily on my mind. To answer your question, as you said, I mean, we're looking at multi-year lows here. Very tough day for especially holder of cash grain. This has just not been good. You know, I would have said a month and a half, 2 months ago that, you know, a person that's holding on to corn might end up getting rewarded due to usage being strong and feeding and test weight being low. There was a lot of things that could have really gone well for the holder of cash corn, but boy, everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong here the last few weeks. Yeah,
as we talk about black swans impacting our markets, you know, of course, those are always an unknown. And whenever you can kind of Monday morning quarterback and look back on things, you say, well, I should have done things different, or if we'd have only known. But here we are 3, 4, 5 weeks now into this pandemic, and it's starting to shape things up a little differently. Matt, are you thinking differently at all about your crop mix and your rotation? Or are you just saying, you know what, there's so many unknowns, we don't know what we're going to get by the time this is all said and done. I'm going to go with what I was going to do anyway.
Right. That's a really good question, and I've gotten that question as much as any. I mean, there's no doubt that the normal producer is going to look and see if I've got swing acres, you know, is there an adjustment I need to make, especially whenever you're putting, for instance, putting a corn crop out. So a lot of the co-ops, you know, and most of us are relying on an ag chem retailer, but they're sitting on fertilizer that is more expensive than what the spot market shows. They can't really pass that on to the producer, though. And so, if you're putting corn out and you didn't get all your inputs on last fall, it really isn't even that big of a benefit to you, considering the fact that those inputs are still pretty expensive. So, it's a tough ball game right now. I mean, do you want to put the lower cost crop out there, in hopes that you can potentially minimize losses? And I hate to say it that way, but unfortunately, Clinton, that's going to be the case in some situations. So, me personally, no, I'm not changing my rotation. I'm only 30% sold. I mean, that's the official recommendation me and the guys came up with, for Mag Market. And of course, I follow my own advice, but 30% sold for D's corn and 25% for beans. At some point, I guess I've got to ask myself, how early in the marketing year do I want to panic? And so, these are tough situations, but you start to get below, for instance, 330 on D's corn, and someone who has 85% crop insurance has protection at their insured bushels. And so we want to at least keep that in the back of our mind. I mean, I actually have 90% this year. Good year for that. I bought up my insurance, but I've got some protection under 350. But you know what? That's only at my insured bushels. So it's early in the marketing year. A lot can change. But right now, this is a very challenging situation.
It is. I saw a quote today that said we may be at peak pessimism this week. And I know you're pretty much always a pretty optimistic person, kind of try to see the glass as half full here. As you work and sit in the tractor there, how do you keep that optimism running for you, Matt?
Well, I think as a producer, we got to step out on faith every year because we're throwing seed in the ground, and we're expecting a lot of things to go right. So, obviously my faith plays a pretty big role in the optimism part. But, as far as my optimism on profit margins, I've got to think that, the market's going to do its job. Cheap prices usually cure cheap prices. I think we'll still see pretty darn good exports ahead. We've had awfully good corn exports the last few weeks, and I sure hope that these cheap prices, we're as cheap as anybody on the world market. Plus, we're cheap as feed grain as far as corn's concerned. So, yes, we're losing copious amounts of demand for corn usage for ethanol, but we're feeding a heck of a lot of corn now, too, that's gotten thrown into rations where DDG's exited the ration. So, there are some good things to look at. Are we still going to be looking at a higher carryout for this crop year? Yeah, we probably are. When I look at the May crop report, are we looking at a 3 bill? Yeah, we probably are when you do 97 million acres at trend line yields. But at some point, you've got to think that these cheap prices are going to help us chew through some of this, decent sized supply that we already have.
Matt, I know, it's colder this week. Some folks slowing down a little bit given the weather. We're kind of right on pace with where we're, the 5-year average is for USDA, 3% planted versus 4% average. How you said you compare this, you'll take this spring over last year. What do you think? How's planting going to go this year?
I feel like, this is kind of crazy, but I would say that our ground is working as good as it's worked since 2012. 2012, the spring of 12, everything worked great. We don't have the moisture. We're not fighting mud this year like we did last year. Yes, I'll take the way that the ground's working. It's a challenge, though, given the temperature. So, what's the progress going to be? Most people say we're going to stay fairly cool still. Are we going to be a little bit laggard? Yeah, maybe. But I would say that the corn's going to go in the ground a heck of a lot better condition, I think, than what we did last year, first of all. Second of all, you could push us back another month, and I don't think the market's going to get super worried about it, considering, the USDA still got us at 168 bushel yield, for the 2019 crop, and gee, many Christmas. That went in super late, so I don't think we're going to get too nervous for quite a while there.
All right. Well, we appreciate the insights, Matt, and best of luck as you get the work done there in Illinois. We know over in Ohio, farmers there are hoping to get their crop in the ground, and last year they struggled. This year they're hoping to get all of the seed in the ground. Our own national reporter Betsy Gibbon, she went to Swanton, Ohio for this week's ID tour.
A little machinery work leaves plenty of time for thought.
Personally, it's hard to get. You feel a little out of funk.
Especially when the world slows down and the moments stretch out.
Very concerned about our personal health. You sure don't want to catch this at planting time and be laid up for a month. That wouldn't be good.
Luckily, Swanton, Ohio is fairly rural, where you'll find Steve Leffler, his son Brad, and grandson Benjamin, now all in the shop all of the time.
Should cut it open.
Oh, you're helping?
Thank you.
They just want the wait to be shorter than 2019.
Hopefully it ain't like last year. Get everything planted would be nice.
When they planted late,
But it was, what, June 27th before we turned a wheel.
and had to go all soybeans.
After we went last year and didn't get to plant any corn, I got to get corn back in my rotation. So I'm going to plant corn.
Their reason to return to corn this year is due to rotation and prevent plant last year and the weeds many Ohio farmers are still experiencing.
Hopefully we can get in the field and get some of the first flush of weeds taken out because they're really coming already on the prevent plant ground. If not, have to probably go in and do a burn down again, even on tilled ground.
Waiting can be trying after so many wet seasons.
It's mud.
In this case, the pause before planting, synchronized with the rest of the world, is not time to be wasted.
I think maybe make families closer. I don't know. I think there could be some good things. You always hope there's good things come out of it.
Reporting in Swanton, Ohio, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
To post your pictures, don't forget to post your pictures or videos on social media by including the hashtag FarmOn. You can text FarmOn to 31313 and include the pictures or video there as well. Of course, we'll continue to cover this coronavirus outbreak and its impact to agriculture and the industry as a whole. For the very latest in what we're reporting, please join us at www.agweb.com/coronavirus. That's where we'll be putting the most up-to-date stories and coverage each and every day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.